Trans athletes have been struggling with getting representation in sports for years now. Some sports allow trans athletes in very specific situations, whilst others outright deny them. For the sports that do allow them, it's still a tough thing for those involved. Today we have a story from a trans athlete and what their opinion is on the current state of sports. So stay tuned to today's video as we discuss. First up, FINA made some changes and trans athletes aren't happy. Just a few weeks ago, FINA, the world's swimming governing body of athletics, made some very vocal changes to its inclusion of trans athletes. In these new rulings, they banned trans athletes who haven't transitioned before the very young age of 12. This was a ban from competing in the female category of sports under their jurisdiction at the elite level of play. Basically, these new rulings from FINA ban all trans women from competing if they were assigned male at birth. Though nowadays some children are able to transition at a very young age, they have to reach the early stages of puberty to even take puberty blockers for a transition. In replacement of the old rulings, FINA has now set up an open category. Not like that makes any difference. This ban has made a massive impact on the sport, leaving only one trans woman swimming in the upper levels. This is Lia Thomas, who won the National Collegiate Division I title over 500 yards freestyle in the US earlier this year. No other trans woman is swimming. Lia is the only one. 71% of FINA's members voted for these rulings after hearing from their working group. Not one trans woman was present at this working group, meaning these votes made no real sense as they weren't educated on the matter correctly. After this announcement, another organization made a blanket ban. The International Rugby League put in place a blanket ban on trans women playing in the sport. One athlete spoke out in an article about all of this. She had this to say: "I'm a trans woman rugby union rugby league player who's played at a high level. My story recently gained media attention when the NRLW were considering if trans players can play alongside them, but I was never consulted by the IRL. Once again, it sends the message that trans players have no right to be at the table to make decisions that directly affect them. When I represented New South Wales in 2007, I only progressed as far as I did by keeping my trans status hidden. It looks like these blanket bans will force trans athletes underground again. The reason I moved from rugby union to league after I was nominated finalist in Sydney Morning Herald Women's Rugby Union Player of the Year in 2004 is because I was outed by my Sydney representative coach, and later during the season I was physically assaulted by 7 teammates at club training. Despite adding 2 more Rugby Australia National Championship titles to my playing resume in 2007 to 2008, I knew the day I was outed my chance of representing Australia had all but evaporated. The goalpost had moved, so I moved with them by adding rugby league to my playing repertoire in 2007. The fact that this trans athlete has been out and open for so long and she is still getting attacked for being who she is insane. Younger trans athletes are being destroyed right now because they cannot do the sport that they have been training for. What do you think about all of this trans athletic stuff? Things aren't going well in that world, and it all needs to be changed. We aren't for what is happening with FINA right now, as it's just wrong. But let us know down in the comments below how you feel about it all. And now stay tuned for some more athletics news and information. Next, what is going on with athletics and the transgender community? Many transgender athletes have struggled with getting into sporting events for years now. It's a tough topic to deal with, as nothing concrete has been set in around the world just yet. Companies are still figuring out what to do with those who are gender neutral or are other genders altogether. One large company named FINA, or FINA, has decided on a new rule regarding transgender people and gender neutral people in sports. Their idea is that if someone has decided on their gender by the age of 12, then they could possibly start to compete in the gendered sport of their choice. There are many things wrong with this choice, and many transgender people on the internet have come out to speak on it. First of all, if they are deciding this all on age and puberty, then it's in agreement that children need to be educated on gender. Currently, it's not in education that children are taught that they can choose their gender and that it can be fluid. This needs to be in effect if they want transgender people to support this rule and abide by it. Another thing is that sports should just be able to include gender neutral or transgender people as they please, as long as they fit the physical build of the other athletes. A transgender woman is still a woman, therefore Therefore, they can compete in a women's competition as long as they are physically a woman and abide by the rules all women in that sport abide by. This would stop the argument of transgender women being too much like men to compete fairly in women's competitions. Children need to be made aware that they have options in gender and that they can delay puberty in order to understand and choose who they want to be. If they really want this new policy and rule to stick, then they need to understand that education is a key step in all of this. Without this education, this rule becomes about bigotry and transphobia. This is a tough topic to talk about, but we would love to hear your calculated thoughts on it all. Let us know down in the comments section below if you believe in what we have said today and understand about the education changes that need to be made in order for this policy to be accepted and applied. Now, what are these new rules to be set by the cycling committee? More than any other part of the world, transgender athletes face the most troubles and struggle with eligibility. Some sports have different rules to others, so it's hard to figure out what can and cannot fly with each one. Recently, cycling has been the major sport to add some new rules toward transgender people. Before these new rules, riders were required to have a testosterone level below 5 nanomoles per liter for a 12-month period before competition. Now, under these new rulings, which are being introduced soon by the Union Cycliste Internationale, the level is now 2.5 nanomoles per liter for a 24-month period. The previous ruling was actually under review, as it was brought to the attention of one of the biggest transgender cyclist, Emily Bridges. Bridges started hormone therapy just a year ago now, and was blocked from competing at nationals by the UCI during threats of a boycott from other riders. They had met the legal requirements for competing, but the UCI just wouldn't let them compete because of everything going on. They didn't even grant a switch to her license. The fact that trans athletes are still seen as having an advantage over others is just insane. They really do not have any advantage, as they are the same as all the other athletes in the field. It all comes down to training and genetics, not what gender they used to be. Well, what do you think about all of this? Let us know down in the comment section below. Also, tell us how you feel about the new transgender rulings coming into athletics. Finally, Tommy Fury pulls out of boxing match with Jake Paul again. Our final story of this video takes us into the athletic world of boxing. Jake Paul has been on Tommy Fury for months now, ever since the two started beefing around a year ago. A fight was set up for the end of last year, but Fury pulled out due to an injury and being ill at the time. Paul didn't take the loss as he fought against his previous opponent, Tyron Woodley, as a replacement. Since then, Paul has been trying to get Tommy Fury to come back into a contract with him for another fight. Tommy finally agreed to another fight with Paul, but is now pulled out once again with another excuse. This time, the boxer said he was not able to get into the US despite being there just a few months prior. They wouldn't let him into the US as he was heading there for another training camp. This means the fight isn't happening, and Jake is furious. What do you think about this? Let us know. And that is the end of today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this latest video. If you did, would you please let us know down in the comment section below? It would be very helpful. Make sure to like the video, comment down below, and of course subscribe to the channel with the notification bell rung. Thank you for watching today's video. Bye!